About the Gandhian era. The Gandhian era. Okay, so let's start this lesson. So in this lesson we are going to study about the Gandhi era, then the Champaran Satyagraha, then the Ahmedabad mill strike, then the Kheda Satyagraha. So first let's start with this Gandhian era. What is this Gandhian era? So the decisive phase of the nationalist movement, that is 1917 to 1947. So 1917 to 1947, this phase of the national movement is called as the decisive phase of the national movement because the major things happened between this period. So the decisive phase of national movement between 1917 to 1947 began with Gandhiji when Gandhiji returned to India from South Africa in January 1915. And when Gandhiji returned to January 1915, things were very different in India. So this phase is also known as the Gandhian era. Okay, now Gandhiji entered into India and later on he started to take part in the national politics. So during this period, Mahatma Gandhi became the undisputed leader of the national movement, and his principles of non-violence and satyagraha were employed against the British government. And Gandhi made the nationalist movement a mass movement. So when Gandhiji came to India, he had experience because he was working in South Africa also against the apartheid, and he was also working against the discrimination which was given to the Indians by the Britishers in South Africa. So Gandhiji was greatly influenced by the works of Leo Tolstoy's Civil Disobedience and Ruskin's Unto This Last. So this is the book which was written by Ruskin. So this book, Leo Tolstoy and Ruskin, these two influenced his life. So he had a different character. So when he came to India, so Leo Tolstoy's ideal of non-possession was developed by Gandhiji in his concept of trusteeship. He had this idea that there should be trusteeship and there should one should not possess an enormous amount of wealth. Whenever there is enormous amount of wealth, it should be turned into trusteeship. So he believed in a trusteeship, and this ideal was gained from the ideas of Leo Tolstoy. Okay, so he was also influenced by the life and teachings of Swami Vivekananda. So he also got a spiritual motivation or inspiration from Swami Vivekananda. So his life was inspired from Swami Vivekananda, and his political guru Gokhale, that is Gopal Krishna Gokhale, and Dadabhai Naoroji also influenced his life. So his political guru was Gopal Krishna Gokhale. We have learned about this in earlier lesson. Okay, so Gokhale was his political guru, and Dadabhai Naoroji also influenced his life. So besides, he had an experience of struggle in South Africa during 1894 to 1914. So during this period he was in South Africa, and when he was in South Africa he took lot of initiatives for do away the discrimination which was given to the Indians in South Africa. So he came to India in 1915, and this changed the course of action of Indian national movement. So here you can see when Gandhiji was in South Africa, he was actively participating in the agitation programs. He was actually leading the agitation programs in South Africa against the discrimination towards Indians. So his non-violent satyagraha involved peaceful violation of specific laws. So he believed in non-violence, okay, and in non-violence, and the satyagraha was a peaceful violation of specific laws. Whichever laws were arbitrary, he violated that law peacefully without using any type of violence. So he resorted to mass courting arrest and occasional hartals and spectacular marches. So this was the way of working of Gandhiji. When Mahatma Gandhiji came, he brought this new type of agitation and a new type of working, new type of protest, and these types were like hartal, then peaceful violation of specific laws, and mass courting arrest. So this type of new ideas came to India along with Gandhiji. So he had readiness for negotiations and compromise. He was not a rigid politician, like he was not a stubborn politician that whatever I demand I want to get. So this was not his idea. He was quite flexible and he was always ready for negotiations and compromise. Compromise means that he believed that his struggle against foreign rule is popularly known as a struggle truth struggle. That means he believed that masses, that people cannot agitate for a long time. After some time, you have to stop that, or you have to pause that struggle, and then only people will participate again in the struggle, because people don't have that capacity, masses don't have that capacity to struggle for a long period. They will wear out, they will lose their energy, and in this way the mass struggle will fade away. That's why Gandhiji used this struggle truth struggle. That means struggle for some time, gain something, then take some rest, and then again start new struggle. So this was actually the struggle truth struggle strategy of Mahatma Gandhi. So that kept the masses involved into the mass movement, because he knew the strength and weakness of the masses, the strength and weakness of common people. So that's why he used this struggle truth struggle strategy. So here you can see he organized a satyagraha in South Africa also, against the arbitrary law of the South African government. So when he came to India, his first satyagraha was Champaran Satyagraha. So this is very important, because this was something new in India. So Gandhi was requested by Rajkumar Shukla to look into the problems of indigo planters of Champaran in Bihar. So there was some problem in Champaran, and there was a problem between the indigo planters and the peasants. So indigo planters and peasants, and the European planters had been forcing peasants to grow indigo on 3/20th of the total land. This system was called as Teen Kathia system. So the peasants were actually not happy with this Teen Kathia system. That means they were forced actually to grow indigo on this 3/20 of their total land. So this system was called Teen Kathia system. So towards the end of the 19th century, German synthetic dyes replaced indigo. Okay. So the industrial revolution was also taking place in Europe, and a new technology was coming forward in the world. So this was also one of the part, that German synthetic dyes were replaced by German synthetic dyes replaced actually indigo. So European planters demanded high rents and illegal dues from the peasants in order to maximize their profits before the peasants could shift to other crops. That means when this German synthetic dyes came into market, the indigo planters were not gaining much profit. So when they were not gaining much profit, that's why they turned to peasants, and when they turned to peasants, and they demanded high rents and illegal dues from the peasants to maximize their profits, because they were not getting that much profit from the indigo plantation now, because new technology was coming in. So peasants could shift. They were also demanding extra money from the peasants because before they could shift to the other crops, and peasants did not wanted to actually grow this indigo crop. So besides, the peasants were forced to sell the produce at prices fixed by the Europeans. So this was not a profitable option for the peasants, because the prices were actually fixed by the Europeans, and they had to sell the prices at the they had to sell the indigo crop at the fixed price. So this was uh, not profitable for the peasants. That's why peasants were not happy. That's why they started agitation against the indigo planters. So when Gandhi reached Champaran to probe into the matter, the authorities ordered him to leave the area at once. And Gandhi defied the order and preferred to face the punishment. When he reached to Champaran, he was told to leave the place, but he said that no, I will not leave. I have come here for a cause, the cause of indigo peasants, and I am going to. If you want to punish me, you are free. You can punish me. So he defied that order. He did not leave the Champaran. So this passive resistance or a civil disobedience of an unjust order was a novel method at that time, because this type of passive resistance was new at that time, because someone was using it for first time, like Gandhiji was using it for first time, because no one had used this kind of passive resistance, that defying a order and defying, because whenever someone got order he had to obey that. But this was something new in India, that you get an order and then you don't obey that order. So this was something new. So that's why this passive resistance was very important. So finally the authorities retreated and permitted Gandhi to make an inquiry into the matter. So Gandhiji inquired into the matter, what was the real matter, what was the problem of the plantation workers, and what was the problem of the plantation owners. So government appointed a committee to look into the matter and nominated Gandhi as a member. So Gandhiji was also a member of that committee which was inquiring into the matter. So Gandhi was able to convince the authorities that the Teen Katia system should be abolished and the peasant should be compensated for the illegal dues extracted from them. So Gandhiji said that this Teen Katia system should be abolished, and second, he said that the peasants should be compensated and they should get the money which was looted from them, actually from the plantation owners. So the peasants should get the compensation for the illegal dues extracted from them. So these were the two recommendations which were given by Gandhiji. So as a compromise with the planters, he agreed that only 25% of the money taken should be compensated. So later on he was able to get 25% of the money to the peasants. So peasants got the 25% of the money which was extracted from them by the plantation owners. So in this way, within a decade, the planters left the area. So this was a big victory for Gandhiji, and this was something new. This brought a hope, or a positive hope, that something can be changed and someone can lead us. So this was the first civil disobedience movement, because Gandhiji defied the law. He was ordered to leave the Champaran, but he defied that law, and he preferred to stay there, and he preferred that he should get punished. If you want to punish me, you can punish me, he said that. And because this is why this is called as the Champaran Satyagraha is called as the first civil disobedience movement. Now remember, this may be a question in our exam, where did Gandhiji use his first civil disobedience movement, and this was in Champaran. Okay, Champaran, first civil disobedience movement. Remember this. Then next was the turn of Kheda Satyagraha. So because of drought in 1918, the crops failed in Kheda district of Gujarat. So there was a drought in 1918 and crops did not grow. So crops failed in Kheda district in Gujarat. So according to the revenue code, now there was a revenue code actually, and this revenue code said that if the yield was less than 1/4 of the normal produce, the farmers were entitled to remission. That if you do not, because of some climatic condition or because of some reason, if the farmer is not able to grow 1/4 of the normal produce, then the farmers will get the remission. But the authorities refused to grant the remission. That means the authorities refused to give them the remission from paying the revenue, from paying the taxes that were okay, that was illegal actually. So Gandhi ji supported the peasants cause and asked them to withhold the revenue. He said that don't pay the revenue, we'll see what happens. So Gandhi ji supported the peasants and asked them to withhold the revenue. He said that don't pay the revenue, we will see what happens. And here you can see Gandhiji participated into the Kheda Satyagraha. This was his second Satyagraha in Kheda district of Gujarat. So the authorities, not willing to openly concede the peasants' demands, issued secret instructions that only those who could afford to pay should pay. Now this is something interesting. The authorities did not wanted to show their defeat in front of the common people, because now at that time Gandhiji was leading the movement in the Kheda, and authorities also came to know that we will have to retreat and we will have to take back these orders. So that's why authorities are not willing to openly concede the peasants' demands. Actually they wanted to concede to the demands of the peasants, but they refused to concede it openly, and they gave secretly instructions to their officers that tell the peasants that those who could afford to pay should pay, and it was not compulsory. So this was a big victory for the agitators in the Kheda, and a big victory for Gandhiji also, because this was his second success after Champaran. So during the Kheda Satyagraha, many young nationalists such as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Indulal Yagnik became Gandhiji's followers, because Gandhiji at that time was a charismatic personality, and because of that Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and Indulal Yagnik became the followers of Gandhiji, and this was the first non-cooperation movement. So remember this, Kheda Satyagraha was the first. Kheda, remember this. This may be a question in our exam. This has been a question in our exam in a couple of times in UPSC exam. So non-cooperation movement, where was the first non-cooperation movement used by Gandhiji? And this was in Kheda, in the form of Kheda Satyagraha, non-cooperation movement. Remember this. Okay, so then came the turn of Ahmedabad mill strike. So some matter was going on in Ahmedabad mill strike. The matter was actually the workers were promised to get that they will get a plague bonus who were working in the Ahmedabad milk. But later on the mill owners, they refused to pay the plague bonus, and that was the main bone of contention between the mill owners and the workers. So Gandhiji did his second experiment at Ahmedabad in 1918, when he had to intervene in a dispute between the workers and the mill owners over the plague bonus. Okay, so he advised the workers to go on strike and to demand a 35% increase in wages. And he insisted that workers should not use violence against the employees during the strike. Okay, so he said that workers should go on strike and they should demand around a 35% of increase in the wages. So here you can see Gandhiji addressing the mill workers. So in the Ahmedabad mill strike, he undertook a fast unto death to strengthen the workers' resolve to continue the strike. He undertook a fast unto death to to strengthen the workers' resolve to continue with the strike, because he wanted to motivate the workers for striking against the mill owners. And how could he motivate? He undertook himself the fast unto death. Okay, so this put pressure on the mill owners, who relented to the fourth day and relented on the fourth day and agreed to give the workers a 35% increase in wages. So this was also a great victory for Gandhiji. So this was the first hunger strike. So this is where Gandhiji used his first hunger strike, in Ahmedabad mill strike. So remember this. So he used his civil disobedience movement and the non-cooperation and then the hunger strike in these three incidences, and this made Gandhiji a big leader in India. He used all these three strategies and he saw that these three strategies are quite useful, and this was later on that he used these three strategies in the independence movement, the national movement. Okay, so here you can see Gandhiji sitting on a hunger strike. So Rowlatt Act was also an important thing. So what happened? What was this Rowlatt Act? So the act was officially called Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act, and this act was actually passed to control the revolutionary terrorism. So this act was actually passed to control the revolutionary terrorism. The revolutionary activity was increasing at that time, and that's why this Rowlatt Act was passed. So this act was passed that anyone could be arrested on mere suspicion. Okay, so and he can be put behind bars, and there was no appeal for this. So this is Rowlatt Act. So the act officially was called as Anarchical and Revolutionary Crimes Act. Okay, and it recommended imprisonment of activists without trial for 2 years. Without trial for 2 years. On mere suspicion also someone could be arrested, and this law was also called as Black Law by the people. Black Law or Black Act. Okay, this Rowlatt Act was also called as Black Law, and Gandhi called for a massed protest at all India level against this Rowlatt Act. So he organized a Satyagraha Sabha and roped in youngsters of Home Rule Leagues and Pan-Islamists. Okay, and form of protest finally chosen included observance of nationwide hartal accompanied by fasting and prayer, and civil disobedience was against specific laws. So this was the form of protest which was used by Gandhiji against the Rowlatt Act. Okay, so this was the first all India mass strike. So this was the first all India mass strike which was used by Gandhiji. So this is very important, the Rowlatt Act. Now something happened in Punjab which was very unforgivable, and this Jallianwala Bagh massacre, we all have heard about it, the Jallianwala Bagh massacre. And this Jallianwala Bagh massacre was actually related to the previous Rowlatt Act. Okay, so it was related to this Rowlatt Act. So what happened in Jallianwala Bagh is people were actually protesting against their arrest of their leaders, that is Satyapal Singh and Satyapal Sinha and Saifuddin Kichlu. These two leaders were arrested in Punjab on the basis of the Rowlatt Act. Okay, and when the people were protesting peacefully at Jallianwala Bagh, General Dyer came and he said that this is a violation of the Rowlatt Act, and he started firing indiscriminately on the peaceful agitators who were unarmed, and he murdered all of them. And that's why the General Dyer is also called as the butcher of Punjab or butcher of Amritsar. So what happened at Jallianwala Bagh is the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, also known as Amritsar massacre, took place on 13 April 1919. and when troops of the British Indian Army under the command of acting Brigadier General Reginald Dyer, he was the man behind all this massacre. Reginald Dyer, he fired rifles into a crowd of Punjabis who had gathered in Jallianwala Bagh, Amritsar in Punjab. Okay, here you can see how mercilessly they butchered unarmed people who were peacefully, silently protesting against the arrest of their leader. So the civilians had assembled for a peaceful protest to condemn the arrest and deportation of two national leaders, that is Satyapal and Saifuddin Kichlu. And these two leaders were arrested under the Rowlatt Act, and people were protesting silently, peacefully against the arrest of these two national leaders. And at that time, this General Dyer came and he fired indiscriminately and killed people. So this incident shocked Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore was the first Asian Nobel laureate. Okay. In this incident shocked Rabindranath Tagore to such extent that he stated, whilst refusing his knighthood, that he actually refused the knighthood, and he stated that such mass murderers aren't worthy of giving any title to anyone. So everyone was angry, even Rabindranath Tagore was also angry, and he stated that such mass murderers aren't worthy of giving any title to anyone. Now you should remember this statement. This statement may be directly asked into a question, that they may give you this statement that and ask you that who stated this statement against Jallianwala Bagh massacre. So this statement was given by Rabindranath Tagore while refusing knighthood. Okay, so here is the image of the General Dyer. So that's all about the Gandhian era. We have seen that Gandhiji came to India and he protested he actually conducted three type of satyagrahas. The first one he some form of civil disobedience. In next one he some sort of non-cooperation, and the third one he showed some type of hunger strike also. So and then we have seen the Rowlatt Act also, and the Jallianwala Bagh massacre also. So that's all about this lesson. So in our next lesson we are going to study about the non-cooperation movement part 1. So we have divided this non-cooperation movement in two parts. So in first part we will study about the non-cooperation movement, the initial phase, the background of the non-cooperation movement. Okay,